Administration announced on Monday that it would freeze funding to Harvard University after the Ivy League school said it would not comply with Trump administration's demands to curb anti-Semitism on campus. The money in question is $2.2 billion in multi-year grants and $60 million in multi-year contracts. The freeze was announced after Harvard University's president, Alan Garber, wrote a letter to members of the community saying in part, "The administration's prescription goes beyond the power of the federal government, and it threatens our values as a private institution devoted to the pursuit, production, and dissemination of knowledge. No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue." Among the actions Trump is requiring the university to take are the elimination of Harvard's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, banning masks at campus protests, and merit-based hiring and admissions reforms. Columbia University lost more than $400 million before caving to the Trump administration's guidelines for rooting out anti-Semitism, perhaps in hopes of getting the money back. Greg?
Thank you, Fiora. The antitrust case against the social media giant Meta began on Monday with CEO Mark Zuckerberg taking the witness stand. The Federal Trade Commission alleges that Zuckerberg bought social media sites, Instagram and WhatsApp, to squash competition by creating an illegal monopoly. The FCC accused Zuckerberg of articulating a strategy for creating a monopoly in 2008 when he indicated, quote, "It's better to buy than to compete." It alleges that Facebook founder systematically tracked down rivals that he considered competitive threats and made it harder for smaller companies to enter the business. The trial could result in forcing the sale of Instagram and WhatsApp, substantially cutting Zuckerberg's ad revenue. MRC Newsbusters, well, you're reporting today that ABC, CBS, and NBC devoted far more time to Trump tariffs and market declines than booming job numbers. Give us the details.
Well, the details really are the numbers on the bias. It's incredible. We looked at ABC, NBC, and CBS nightly and morning flagship newscasts. We did it from April 2nd through April 11th. Over 7 hours was dedicated to covering the tariffs between the three networks, but you get just 45 seconds when it comes to the good news of the economy, the consumer price index going down, gas prices going down, things of that nature barely get mentioned. They focus solely on the negative. I mean, it's basically 62 times more negative coverage on the economy. You would think if they were that focused on the economy to give it 7 hours of negative coverage on the tariffs, they could certainly do a little bit more on the positive sides of the economy.
Yeah, you would think so if you're going to be honest about it. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida is on the warpath against state House Republicans, joining with Democrats to blunt the Republican agenda while they attack the DeSantis administration. Here it is.
They were elected to cut property taxes, which they refused to do. They were elected to help alleviate and end the condo crisis, which the Florida House has refused to do. They were elected to continue our Florida First agenda.
Since he took office, the governor's enjoyed a compliant Republican-dominated legislature. Now he's facing a multi-front attack from Republican lawmakers as well, who are pushing proposals to erode the governor's authority. They want to investigate past administration decisions. What in the world is happening in Florida?
I wish I knew. I got to be honest. I'm looking this from the perch here in Washington, D.C., and, you know, it's confusing to see what's going on with Florida right now. They're definitely challenging the governor. It seems like maybe they want to take more aggressive oversight in the budget, challenging his veto power, challenging some of the things that he's eliminated from the budget. So it's interesting to see this play out. Will it play out in favor of the Republican Party as a whole, or will it actually play out to favor DeSantis? We're going to have to see how this works out coming down the line.
That's interesting to watch. CBS Morning was covering the Blue Origin launch with their own Gayle King on board when they got a lesson in DEI from a former NASA astronaut. Here it is.
So explain to our audience why even a trip like this one, all the trips that we take into space benefit mankind.
So it benefits humankind, and I'm going to keep correcting the mankind and the man-made and the man missions, because this is exactly what this mission is about, is expanding the perspective of who does space.
Well, let's see if we can manage this question. What's your reaction to the woke lashing Dr. Jimson gave the CBS host?
Well, as you can see by my reaction, it's completely laughable. She's all humankind. Humankind and mankind is all encompassing. This is a silly hill that leftists like to fight and die upon, is these pronouns and the words and the terminology, and no one really feels that passionate about it.
All right, Eric, you managed that very well. Bring you back here in just a minute.